Welcome to the Area Plan Commission meeting for Monday, June 27th, 2016 at the Scanta Theater on the second floor of the Frankfort Library. This coverage is made possible by Farm Bureau, Inc., the Farmers Bank, and Susan Casper State Farm Insurance. We just want to mention that the sponsors underwriting this live and archive broadcast on WILO TV have an interest in making this public meeting available to you, but do not necessarily support the views expressed during the coverage of this event. In the spirit of transparency and keeping you informed, our sponsors are pleased to help make this meeting available to those not able to attend.
Okay, I need to have everybody's attention, please. My name is Clark Beard. I'm president of the Area Plan Commission. I'd like to call this second special Wind Ordinance Review Committee meeting to order. This is not a regular Area Plan Commission meeting. This is just a committee meeting of a grand nature, as you can see. Mark, could you do a roll call?
Okay, Larry Menon. Here. Chris Sampson.
Here.
Corey Boyles.
Here.
Clark Beard.
Here.
Steve Woods.
Here.
Dave Jones.
Here.
Dan Cheats.
Here.
And Jay Moore, our attorney, and myself, Mark Mills.
Okay, thank you. As we determined in our last meeting, we want to keep our committee meetings to 2 hours in length, so I apologize for starting a couple minutes late here. We had to get some people in the door. Let's see, we're about 4 minutes late, so maybe we can go 4 minutes past. But our assignment here is we've been charged with the duty of reviewing all the procedures and standards of the existing Clinton County Wind Ordinance and other related zoning ordinances. Our job is to gather facts and information and look at the current ordinances, the comprehensive plan, and make recommendations ultimately that will go to the Area Plan Commission when we have a regular slated meeting, and at that point then we will decide as in a voting manner to whether or not to have a public hearing on these things, move forward with it. But nevertheless, tonight we decided as a committee to do something that's kind of unusual, and that's to seek comment from the public really before we roll up our sleeves and start looking at information. And been a lot of people expressed an interest in speaking up. So this meeting is your meeting, so I don't want to take a whole lot of time. We agreed last week to try to dedicate 3 to 5 minutes for people who signed up ahead of time to speak, and we've got roughly 23 people here on the list if they're all here. And I haven't really taken an attendance, but based on my best information, we've got 23 people that want to speak. And if you divide that out over the time, considering there's a little time here, an introduction and some rules, that 4 minutes seems to be an appropriate amount of time to designate for each speaker. Each speaker is asked to come up to the podium there, and I think Russ has got the mic turned on already. You need to know this is being streamed on WILO. The speaker is to address the board, and only the board, because we're the ones here gathering the information. We probably won't have any kind of time to cross-examine anybody, so my encouragement to the board here is to, if you have some questions for a speaker, write that down, write their name down, and you know, it's our right to at a later date call them into another meeting to further explain their information. If we try cross-examining tonight, we'll never have enough time. And you know, I don't even think I need to read this. The last couple meetings we've had, most of you have been to, and I've been really proud of this community so far, and the professionalism of everybody, both this board staff and everybody that's commented, and I don't expect anything less tonight. But I just want to read what's always at the bottom of all of our agendas, just so everybody knows that the Area Plan Commission has determined that the chair must reserve the right to limit the time of any discussion or debate and to terminate such whenever it is deemed to be impasse and takes an inflammatory or derogatory direction. Name-calling, profanity, boisterous language will not be tolerated. I'm sorry I even had to mention that. I think all of you are more grown up than that. But that is where it stands. And I think with that in mind, we need to get started with the first speaker. And we didn't really know how to organize these, didn't want to show any bias or any favoritism so that way. So we said, well, we'll just put numbers next to all their names and put those numbers in a container. And Amber, our administrative assistant at the area plan office, is going to draw a number. And then that person is going to be the first to speak and so on as we go. She is going to also do the timekeeping, and we're going to give 4 minutes. At 3.5 minutes, she'll give a yellow card. That's your 30-second warning, basically. And then when the 4 minutes is up, she'll put the red card up. And I think out of respect for the speakers, just wrap up the comment you're on right then. We're not going to cut you off in the middle of a sentence, okay? And I again encourage everybody to pay attention, and that includes the board up here. Be respectful to everyone. Amber, are you ready? Do you have anything to add, Jay?
No, I think you're fine.
Okay. The first number. 17. Okay. Mark Sheets, 2919 South, 700 East. Topic was financial concerns. Yeah, if you would, please silence your phones.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm a small farmer, 220 acres tillable. I spent my time in Nam while the rest of them were improving their farm ground. That's fine. They didn't miss a thing. But this is my chance to improve the living conditions of my family. I need that money. And if you don't, then my only other thing is tell me something I can do to make some money. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Sheets. By the way, I wanted to also mention that several people have already given us information to look at. We won't have time to look at it tonight, but rest assured we will take our homework assignments home, and appreciate that. That makes it a lot better. I think with that in mind, we'll move on to the next number. 4.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes.
We were told at the last meeting that the comments here would be only about the ordinance, not about financial, not about good or bad, not about pro or con, not opinions. I appreciate Mr. Sheets' circumstance, but I thought we were limited as to the topic of the presentations this evening.
Well, I recognize that, and in light of that, well, that's a good thing to remind everybody about. But due to the fact that he was so short and concise in his comments and didn't waste a lot of our time, I thought it was not really necessary for me to call Mr. Sheets out, okay? Okay, number 4 is Bob Zahn, 102 Heather Place, Sharpsville, wind energy for rural ag townships.
Good evening. My name is Bob Zahn. I live in Liberty Township, Tipton County. I am a farmland owner in both Clinton and Tipton County. I do pay taxes in Clinton County, so I do support the county and the Clinton Central School System. I worked in industry for 34 years. I currently work as an independent contractor for wind development. I've been associated with various wind developers since 2008. I became interested in wind development due to the opportunity of bringing in a revenue into rural agricultural areas and townships that basically had no other opportunity or very limited opportunity to bring in revenue into the county. I also learned that that revenue stream does not require the county to bring in any or to spend any money to acquire it. They don't have to spend money on roads. They don't have to bring in utility, either electrical, gas lines. They don't have to have water projects, waste treatment projects, and it does not require additional fire and police protection. I learned about wind energy as a revenue source basically by going to Benton County in 2009. Like most people, I got on the internet and was a little disheartened to see all the negativism. So what I did is I contacted Purdue University. I linked up with the Purdue Extension agent for Benton County. His name was Jimmy Bricker. I went up to and attended meetings with Jimmy for Benton County. White had not gotten started just then. It was just Benton. And I talked to...
Bob, I need to interrupt you a little. Do you have any points in your discussion pertaining to the wind zoning ordinance? We really need to focus on that. We're not here to decide pros and cons on the wind farming. We are here to look at the procedures and the standards that are in the existing zoning ordinance, and I have to stick to that.
Okay. I guess the only thing is that this review does look at science and fact when they make the decision. I guess I guess in closing, then, if we're going to stay to the guidelines you just indicated, I'd just like to thank the board for allowing me to speak, and hopefully we'll still be able to work with the county. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Next. Nathan Sommers, 1316 North, 830 East, decommissioning plan security.
I appreciate the board's time. In reviewing the wind ordinance, there are just a few key points I would like to go over as you pursue wind energy development in the county. If that is the intent, there is an alarming issue as far as there is really no timelines in our decommissioning plan. The decommissioning plan is outlined vaguely in our current ordinance, and in that there is no timeline for if a single turbine, if the project itself were to be in such disrepair that it would be considered abandoned and would need to be removed. There is no timeline. Now, Tippecanoe County states the decommissioning must be completed within 6 months. That is down to the foundation, under 4 feet under the ground, returning the ground to its natural state, or a state which the landowner agrees to. Randolph County, Cass County, White County, and Grant County provide in their ordinance a timeline of 365 days. Tipton County and Rush County vary only slightly in the way they label that as within 1 year. So if we can consider a timeline for removing these at the point that that becomes appropriate. Currently, there is no bond in place to cover the repair of roads during construction or post-construction. I know there have been statements made that our roads will be improved. However, there is no financial assurance of that in the current wording of our ordinance. Jay County and Carroll County state that a corporate surety bond in an amount to be fixed by a professional engineer will be required by the supervisor to ensure the county that future repairs are completed to the satisfaction of the county. In our current ordinance, during the construction phase of wind energy development and post-construction, there are simply 2 statements made. During construction, road repairs are to be made within 10 days. However, there are no resolutions or timeline penalties applied to that. And post-construction, there is no timeline and no penalty outlined for a resolution to road repair, only that the operator is liable for 5 years for all costs of repairs to county structures, surface and subsurface. The other issues to consider that are outlined in our ordinance are TV and cell phone reception can be impacted. However, there is no plan for resolution, only that the operator shall promptly resolve a written complaint relating to interference, and there is no timeline for that resolution. In Rush County, they have stated that this will be resolved similarly to ours promptly. However, Grant County puts a timeline of 180 days. And they go as far to say that if that is not remediated, that appropriate action such as requiring the WEX to become inactive or removed should be moved on. Rush County, similar statement, only they shortened their timeline to 90 days. And Tipton County, if interference is not remedied within 30 days, the WEX shall become inactive. Another point that Tipton County and Benton County provide in their ordinance is that on an annual basis, at minimum, a summary of operation and maintenance reports be provided to the county. And in addition to the above annual summary, the operator must furnish operation and maintenance records as the county reasonably requests. I think that's, you would require operation and maintenance reports from any business owner or any other energy company in the county. There should be a provision for that. The other 2 points that I'd leave you with is there is no prohibition clause in our current ordinance. 7 different counties in the state of Indiana provide a clause that states in similar language that no applicant shall construct, operate, or locate a wind energy conversion system within said county without having fully complied with the provisions of this ordinance.
Nathan, you hit your red card.
If you just let me finish up this point, there is no prohibition clause in our current county ordinance, and essentially what that provides is no legal action for us to take if a company were to just do and ask questions later. Thank you.
All right. Did you submit anything in writing, Nathan?
I can at a future date. These were just my talking points.
Well, I'd love to see those in writing. So
I appreciate it.
I made sure I've made some notes here, but it's a little. I'm not good at shorthand.
Thank you for your time, though.
Thank you. Next. Number 13 is Kelly, and you'll have to forgive me, I'm not sure. Is it her? H-A-E-R-R? Is Kelly here?
She's talking, we just can't hear her.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Kelly. Okay. Next. Okay. Andy Robertson.
If you're starting the clock now, before I start,
Oh, we'll give you a little time to get up
for
there.
certain sure. Okay. All right. Just a wee bit taller than some of the others. Basically tonight, just want to approach and talk about the impact of industrial wind development on property values of non-participating landowners and homeowners. I've already submitted 126 pages of documentation. Particularly, I wish you to take note of the study done by Dr. Heitzelman and Dr. Tuttle at Clarkson University. Now, similar to that study, my statements tonight have no bearing or judgment on the societal benefits or detriments of wind, and they are not to be interpreted as saying that wind development should be stopped. I want that to be understood. They are focused on one key deficiency of the current ordinance. When Clinton County adopted this ordinance, it addressed issues involving participating landowners and, of course, the county. All right? But it remains totally silent in regards to the vast majority of the citizens of this county and to their property rights and to basically protecting those rights. And that's about, in the townships where the wind overlay exists, that's about 1,900 households. There are multiple studies on the effect of industrial wind development on property values. They have been done by the wind industry, the government, realtors, academics, and I will not go into extensive detail of the minutiae of those studies for the sake of brevity this evening. I am sure that you will be provided by the wind industry with evidence that it says it has no effect. and that any homeowner at ground zero will be able to sell their home for the same price that they could have obtained before an industrial wind complex was constructed around their home. If this committee is being open-minded, I want you to think about that. Let's talk about other scenarios. All right? The purpose of the Area Plan Commission is to guide development, and the plan is to guide development. True? So, if, based upon what you gentlemen do, a mobile home park would not be set up near Little Lake Estate, correct? I mean, that's not pragmatic. The development of a new landfill near a residential area is not going to take place. In both cases, the Area Plan Commission would say that's going to decrease property value, and it would. However, I don't think it's very solid argument to say putting up almost 500-foot towers next to a home is not going to have any effect. That's not pragmatic. It's not logical. The courts of Indiana have already ruled in the Rush County Superior Court in the Flat Rock Wind versus Rush County Area Board of Zoning Appeals case just this month that the existence of turbines between up to 1 and 3 miles away negatively impacts property values between 15.6 and 31%, while having a turbine on the parcel where the home sits reduces prices by possibly up to 65%. The London School of Economics has just recently released a very detailed study that homes within 1.2 miles of large wind farms were slashed by 11% in value. Going back to the Clarkson University, which of course that study is not for or against, it's not being supported by either side. It's an academic study that's been peer-reviewed. Okay, it says that within 1 mile of a turbine, you'll have declines in prices between 7.73% and 14.87% on average.
Andy, the red card's up. Do you have a
Red
final point, please?
Okay, well, we'll just do this in a quick conclusion. All right? Basically, okay, I have given you a property value guarantee to look at. Take a look at it. That is a possibility for a solution to the problem of placing all of the burden on non-participating homeowners and landowners as well. I mean, this is a basic exercise in logic, plain and simple. One, if what they say is true and there's no effect, we're all happy. And say a property value guarantee is in there. So nothing happens. However, if that is not true and Clarkson University and others are correct, then you're placing an extremely heavy burden on a small population of this county. And they will suffer economically for your decisions. And I ask you not to do that and to consider a property value agreement.
Thank you, Andy. Next number. So, 12? Okay. Number 12, Larry Rule.
Thank you. I'm not here pro or con. I don't care on your challenge, gentlemen. I think you got a challenge very greatly for Clinton County, good and bad. I'm just here to relate what happened 12 years ago in this county when wind first come to Clinton County. The Chamber of Commerce organized a broad...
Larry, we already did this at the last meeting, and I'm sorry, but we did set rules, and I think it was pretty clear to everybody that we're here to talk about the wind zoning ordinance, and I have to maintain that rule. Do you have any comments regarding the wind zoning ordinance?
I think that would affect your ordinance of how you draft it in the future to use as an example for the Benton and Tipton counties to help you do that.
Okay.
And that's why I wasn't at your last meeting, and if it was, I apologize. But that's what I was trying to emphasize we did 12 years ago.
Well, we did a review on where we started at and where we're at today.
Okay.
Thank you. Next. 18. Jim Risto.
Thanks for this opportunity. I'm Jim Risto. I'm a 20-year resident of Clinton County. I happen to live right in the center of the proposed wind farm, and I've thought a lot about it. I was at the early start. I was down in Indianapolis when the first wind came out. I got to hear from the head policymaker of the energy policymaker, Larry Flowers, who made it clear that the policy of the United States of America was to promote these wind farms. We think we're going to do it. We're counting on you to set it up so that it's done fairly. We understand that it's going to be a nuisance for some people. For some people, it's more than a nuisance. And it's up to you to decide who has the biggest nuisance. Is it the person like me who lives in the center, who will be surrounded by wind turbines? Or is it someone who lives 10 miles off that has to drive from the city out to the wind farm just to see a turbine? I think that's what I've come to say is, it seems to me it's just a matter of trying to decide who's affected the most and in what way. So that's what I've had to say.
Well, thank you, Jim. I think that is what, setting the procedures and standards is all about. Who's next, Amber? Brenda Robertson.
Some of my comments may overlay with Nathan Summers. I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Brenda Robertson, lifelong resident of Clinton County, which 38 years have been as a landowner in Forest Township. I thank the Area Plan Commission for the opportunity to speak. My concern in regards to the amendments to the WECS ordinance is related to roads and public and private communications. I have two suggestions to this commission for review. The first item is located under section 406.02, construction and standards. Item number 7. This is part of the transportation plan. This alludes to the Clinton County Highway Supervisor conducting a pre-construction baseline survey. In addition to what is specified in this section, I feel it would be prudent to compel the applicant to hire an agreed-upon certified engineer to evaluate the roads and bridges in conjunction with the Clinton County Highway Supervisor. Howard County, Indiana, has written this into their ordinance. With the expertise in conducting our baseline survey, there should be photos and/or video. This has been stated in the Carroll County ordinance. This would be a valuable record and serve as evidence in any dispute that may arise after the project with the restoration of our roads to the standards of pre-construction. This would ensure a greater level of protection to the citizens who use these roads and to the government of Clinton County who have created and maintained the roads. The next item is located under section 406.03, post-construction and continued maintenance requirements. It is under set C, item 3. As a synopsis of the language of this item, it refers to the post-construction telecommunication complaint. If the owner/operator receives a written complaint in regards to interruption of communication, it shall promptly resolve the complaint. Promptly is not definitive enough. What prompt for one entity may not be prompt for another. In the world we live in now, instant or near instant communication can be critical. More people are working from their homes using telecommunication. They are answering emails and transacting business. This is a critical part of our daily lives. Also, Clinton Central students, like other school students, have moved to a more electronically based education. Students are expected to complete homework on their iPads. This activity does require internet connection. And for the coming year, they will also have e-learning days as a replacement for some of their snow days. Clinton Central has reported to the Indiana Department of Education a population of 972 students for the 2015-2016 school year. With the potential disruption of communications networks, this will put the students at a disadvantage if this should not be resolved in a quick manner. I guess it would give a new excuse as to why they did not get their homework done. On an emotional note, in regards to my life, both my mother and my mother-in-law are widowed and over the age of 80. My husband and I are their first call whenever there is a problem to be solved. These include life-threatening events. As I'm sure some of you on the board and in the audience have received those calls at 2 a.m. in the morning. The slow resolution to the disruption of telecommunications could be disastrous. The lax language of prompt in any contract or document is undeterminable and is up to debate. I ask that you please assign it a narrow timeline, and if the issue is not resolved or mitigated within the timeline, then a fine should be assessed the property/owner. I would also like to suggest a pre-construction communication study be written into the Clinton County WECS ordinance so as to minimize the interference with public and private telecommunication transmissions. This could potentially reduce the future interruption to telecommunication systems. White and Jasper County have written this study into their ordinance. I have provided, and you should have in your stack, my documentation that would go along with it. It's all been highlighted. I graciously ask you to consider the proposals I have suggested, and I thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Brenda. Next, number 6, Glenda Fry.
First of all, I want to thank you for inviting all of us to participate in this process. I was intending to speak about property values. Obviously, I don't have 120 pages that Mr. Robertson has. What I have to share with you, though, are some more local data from our neighboring counties who do have some wind farms, and I will leave that with you to look over at your perusal. What was requested was from White, Benton, Tipton, and Madison, and we have yet to hear from White. Perhaps we will at a later time, but I wanted to leave that with you and tell you once again that I appreciate that you're doing this. I think it's very important. These trends locally happen to go up, which of course, I am a realtor, so I've noticed that they are, the values are going up. We have data to support that. A realtor I talked to from Benton County pointed out that it didn't seem to be affected by the wind. So when you look at the parts of the ordinance that would be related to property values, be sure that you're looking at current information and information that relates to local as you consider the ordinance for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenda. And thank you for bringing some hard copy. We'll make copies for everyone. We've got a few other things where we just received one copy. Mark will take those and get them back to us so we can all have the same information. Amber, number 7, Fred Minnick.
Okay, I'll cover the topics that are just right in the ordinance. I read the ordinance online, so I'm going with the D49 format and so on, the different pages. On D49, it addressed drainage ditches and field tiles. And I have a pond on my property that I had dug, and the level of the water is dependent upon the groundwater. I was wondering if the drainage for these windmills is affected at all the water table, if it goes down, it would affect my, my pond water level. And something should be in the ordinance related to people's personal ponds on their property. Also on D53, I don't have big fields between my house and my property line, so if the setback is pretty short, it's going to be right on top of me, so I would want at least 1,500 feet just to be halfway reasonable and preferably further. Also, on your D54, there's some environmental concerns. I've read over the years situations where gearboxes have exploded in these big windmills. And of course, that would scatter oil around and possibly contaminate soil and groundwater. And so there should be something to address that possibility. And that would include taking water samples, not just after the event, but some background water samples around the area of the windmills. So you have before and after water quality conditions. Brenda Robertson, I believe, addressed the Wi-Fi situation. The ordinance currently has something about television reception, but we want to make sure that people's Wi-Fi for their wireless computer is not screwed up. Also, D57, it's the very last part of the ordinance. It says something to the effect that disruptive noise shall run with the land, and I'm not really sure what that means, and I think that should be made more clear. Now, Andy Robertson mentioned about property values, and one thing that could be a way to address that would be to have properties within a certain distance to the windmill farm appraised before the windmill farm's even put in, and see what their value is, and if they are sold after the windmills are up, see what the appraisal value had been compared to what you get, and also add in or subtract a change in market value of the homes in the area, and compensate the homeowners for their loss, if there is indeed a loss, whether it's 10,000 or 20, whatever. But that should be something that would be addressed in the ordinance. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Fred. Next. Number 15 is Larry Neal.
Hello, my name's Larry Neal, and I left some papers with you gentlemen, and some of them are relevant, some are not, some is found just information. My main concern is the setbacks from non-participating property owners and their houses, and there's some studies I saw on the internet in Poland that there was more concern about the low frequency noise that was over long periods of time they thought was going to be detrimental to people's health. And they were talking about like 2 to 5 kilometer setbacks to protect the health of the people, particularly the ones that don't participate. And the ones that do participate, that's up to them. But that was my main concern, was there's more, when you read about it, there's more concern about the low frequency. They were saying, you're talking about 45 dB noise around the windmills within a certain distance or whatever your standards are. And they were more concerned about getting that low frequency down to 35 decibels. Lowering it, because it's a low pitched hum like a train whistle that I can hear 2 miles away in my house at night. That low vibration just penetrates a long distance more than you think. So that was my main concern, was the setbacks should be half mile to mile from the non-participating to keep people's health. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Larry. And we do all have copies of what you brought in. And again, I'll repeat, we'll make sure that everybody has a copy of everything. Who's next? 10, Don Blanche. And Don, we got something from you, and we will duplicate that to the commission members tomorrow when we get a chance.
My name's Don Blanche. Since you have a copy of that, I'm not going to read all this to move things along tonight. I personally want to thank you for the opportunity to speak on the ordinance. I particularly appreciate the time that was put into the ordinance when it was initially written. It's obvious that a lot of time and a lot of effort was put into that. I appreciate the fact you're going back and reviewing that ordinance. There's certainly, have been some changes in the wind farm field in the last few years. I live east of Michigan Town in the area that's under the proposed wind farm. My basic concern is simply that we have a fair and a safe ordinance for both people that are participating and people that are non-participating. So with that, I'll leave it for the next speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Number 25 is Nancy Klein, and I believe Nancy's going to defer to Dave Risto. No? Okay, so you're going to speak. All right, well, you did email us in, and
I did.
And got on the list, so
Thank
go ahead, Nancy.
Thanks. Well, first of all, thank you to all of you for listening to us. I know this is a tiring and hard job for you to do, and I just appreciate you listening to everyone. As I was sitting to listen to Kurt Emanuel on your ordinance, you guys, whoever was responsible for that, you guys put in a really lot of time and effort and study into that, and I think it's really, as a whole, a really good ordinance. And it also, I noticed that not only does it have appropriate setbacks, but it has double protection for the homeowner, because your ordinance is based on sound considerations from a residence. So really a homeowner has double protection. Now the goal of the opposition, and this isn't my first rodeo, so the goal of the opposition is to make the setbacks so restrictive that that a wind farm could not build. And and I urge you people to please
Please refrain from interrupting the speaker.
Do your homework. There's a lot of good information out there, and there's a lot of false information out there. And I've studied it, and I know. Please, when you're looking at information, look at the universities. Make sure that the reports are peer-reviewed. That's very important. But your job is to sort fact from fiction. But I'm telling you that the oppositions, they want to kill it with the setbacks, and that would just destroy economic opportunity for Clinton County. I guess I also would urge you not to pattern your ordinance after Tipton County. We have a beautiful wind farm in our area, no problems, no reception problems, nothing. And it's running beautifully. But what happened was a small minority put false information, got a group together, convinced these people that it was bad, and it isn't. We've got one in Madison County, it's great. But they convinced these people, and then they put too large of setbacks, and we lost another economic development tool. And we need these economic developments, especially in eastern Clinton County. So just be careful not to kill the project with too many setbacks, or too large of setbacks. Most of the opposition, they don't like to look at them, and so I'm getting off topic, Clark, and I'll stay on topic. But the benefits of the wind farm are more than the inconveniences, and it's a balancing thing. So I just ask you to please do the right thing when you come to looking at the ordinance, and any changes that you might make, just be careful that you give Clinton County this huge economic opportunity. And it will be a test. You guys are going to be tested. of courage and character, but it's always rewarding to know that you did the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Next. Number 20 is Stan Smith.
My name is, like I said, is Stan Smith, and I'm not here to talk pro or con or bring any facts up about the wind farm. I speak as an individual. I don't speak for any of the private sector boards or public boards that I serve on in the community. But I want to commend you guys for doing this in an open forum, listening to anyone that wants to speak, and I would hope that you're able to come up with a solution where everyone wins. That's all I have to say.
Thank you for your words of encouragement, Stan. Next. Number 2, Terry Cox.
Well, I'll tell you something about me. I've lived in the county all my life. I've worked in the factories. I've also been in the farm. Also, my wife works at a factory too. I do know something, but I'm not allowed to say it tonight. But, you know, it could be bad for the community later on. And if you want to ask questions later, that's fine. But also on this, I believe the ordinance of the setbacks is a major factor. I would really like to see this project go. I'm personally 100% for it. I was going to tell you a lot of different things, good factors about it, but it didn't contain to the ordinance, so it can't. But, you know, most things in the ordinance probably are good. I mean, please don't be too rigid on the ordinance that, you know, I feel that this project is wonderful for the community. I feel like it'll be a golden opportunity for each and every one of us. But, you know, and I know some people disagree with me, but that's okay. I guess that's probably about all I can say that pertains to the ordinance, but I wish I could say more. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Terry, and I appreciate you following the rules. That's the only thing we have to do here is review the procedures and standards in the ordinance. So, number 1, Lael Eason.
How's it going? My name's Lael Eason. I am with Eon Climate Renewables, and since we are kind of like the source of, you know, some of the concerns here, I would like to maybe spend a little bit of time basically just talking how we got here. Again, good evening. I'm Lael Eason with Eon Climate Renewables. I'd like to begin by thanking the Planning Commission for allowing me the opportunity to speak. Just a little bit about myself. I've been with Eon since 2009 and in the wind industry since 2007. Prior to that, I was a captain in the Army where I served as a mechanized infantry platoon leader and mortar platoon leader with one rotation operation in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom. Since tonight is about the county wind ordinance and not a specific project, I'm here to listen. But before I sit, let me briefly introduce who we are and what we have been doing.
Lael, I really, this is not the time to be doing that. If you don't have any comments pertaining to the wind zoning ordinances in this county, then it's really not allowable.
Okay. So let me touch on a few things then from what I've heard tonight. Property values. It was made mention, I understand there are concerns as far as property values being negatively impacted. Over the last 2 weeks, I have met with the assessors and some realtors up in Benton, White, Madison, Tipton counties, all have stated to the effect that there have been no negative impacts as a result of the wind farms operating in those counties. Further, we have academic studies that will support this position that I'm happy to provide. As far as setbacks, Benton County amended their ordinance in 2009, and they have had no changes since. I have a current copy of the ordinance that I can provide you, but matter of fact, they are installing, additional phases to the wind farms that are operating up there. As you have heard, there are counties that have increased their setbacks from a property line to the extent that it has killed projects. I would respectfully request that you take the time to review information as well as take time to tour a wind farm, either in Benton, White, or Madison, Tipton counties, and see it for yourself, as well as ask those that have been directly and indirectly impacted. To the concerns regarding Department of Public Health, I submitted for record a letter from the Benton County Health Inspector earlier today that suggested that there has been no knowledge of any adverse health impacts as a result of the operating wind farm in Benton County. In the beginning, I had mentioned that I'm a veteran. I shared that information with you because I understand fear, I understand uncertainty, and I understand you all regularly face tough decisions that are required to protect the health, safety, and welfare of this community. I am confident that as you continue to review this matter through an objective lens, you will see there is a means for us to work together and ensure we have a comprehensive zoning ordinance that protects the community at large and allows the opportunity for wind and economic development. I do appreciate this time to speak, and I am committed to working with you and providing any additional studies you need, as well as working to arrange for any types of tours that you'd like to see the wind farms for yourself, either in Benton, White, or Madison, Tipton counties. Thank you.
Thank you. Number 16, Dan Combs.
Well, my name is Daniel Combs, and I live on 900 East. We've been down this road before. I would like to encourage the Area Planning Commission to visit the farms also. I've spent a lot of time in Tipton County. I've spent a lot of time up at Benton County. I've been there. I don't have studies to back up my position. I just know that I don't want to live there. Most of the people that are not participating in the projects do not want them. My main points were not about the ordinance. I was a little bit off on that, so I apologize. I would like the Commission to consider totally eliminating the wind farm provision in the ordinance. I think that it's a great injustice to the people that live around there. I think we put our business, as it's been mentioned before, to stop people from putting up trailers in places that's not desired. These protect people with a lot of money, and now when it goes back the other way, it doesn't seem like anyone is worried about that. I think that's a big issue. You need to consider the hypocrisy in that as you look at this ordinance, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And again, I appreciate you respecting the fact that we have a very narrow focus here. We're not here to discuss the pros and the cons of wind farming. That's not a decision that this commission makes. Who's next, Amber? 19. Number 19. That would be Elizabeth Landis.
Hello, I'm Elizabeth Landis, as it was just mentioned, and I'm a homeschool mom, a mother of 5 children. I teach them at home. I do have help with the older children from direct line-of-sight internet with Hoosier Broadband. I've come to talk about the ordinance tonight. I took you at your word. I will say, in honoring your request to have studies, it takes a long time to find these studies, and I will refer to them. My family and I moved to this agricultural area from a large city of over 1 million people in Ohio. We moved here because this is a great place to raise a family. We had a little church in this area that actually burned down and relocated on 47, and that church drew us here. I have concerns because we chose an agricultural place to live about putting industrial wind turbines in a residential and agriculturally zoned area. And I have concerns about setbacks in health, and I would like to quote from the National Academy of Medicine in France that they recommend 1,500 meter setback from residence. I did the math on that, and that's 4,921 feet. Now, that's not what France accepted as its government, but that's what their National Academy of Medicine sent. And I have the link to that, and it is all written in French. I can translate that for you if you have any questions about it. But in the email, I did locate the line, and I think on the handout, of what the 1,500 meters is. Secondly, concerning noise. I'm concerned about the ordinance saying that 45 decibels at the residential property line is acceptable. What I found in a peer-reviewed journal from the Public Library of Science, abbreviated PLOS, is that health effects related to wind turbine noise exposure have been systematically reviewed. That's December 4th, 2014. It says that at present it seems reasonable to conclude that noise from the wind turbines increases the risk of annoyance and disturbed sleep in exposed subjects in a dose relationship. There seems to be a tolerable limit of around 35 decibels that's acceptable. Logically, accepting higher limits in legislations may lead to increased numbers of annoyed subjects. Cranky people who aren't sleeping well, in other words. It therefore seems reasonable to conclude that a cautious approach is needed when planning future wind farms. I might add in, just as a side note, I see in the Frankfort Times a lot of commentary about the unhealthiness of Clinton County, and there have been a lot of studies on sleep related to unhealthiness. I don't have those studies except for this one. So nextly, I'd like to quote the Acoustic Ecology Institute. They did a wind farm noise 2012 science and policy overview, and their quote is, under a half mile, exactly half of the residents in Lincoln Township, Wisconsin, said that noise had been a problem. So there you have, in the under the half-mile distance, half of the residents. Now, a large study done by the Berkeley Laboratories Institute called A Spatial Hedonic Analysis of the Effects of Wind Energy Facilities on Surrounding Property Values in the United States, done August 2013, collected data from over 50,000 home sales. This one's on property values related to setbacks. 50,000 home values sales in 27 counties in 9 states. Now, homes were looked at within 10 miles of 67 different wind facilities. The report's conclusion is that they find no statistical evidence that home prices were affected by the presence of wind farms. Interesting. However, of the greater than 50,000 homes looked at, the sales, only 331 homes were within a half mile of a turbine. So compare 331 out of 50,000. Doesn't seem like a really well-balanced study. Homes located within 1 mile of the turbines had lower sale prices than homes far away. That's page 23 of the study. Additional research is required, however, especially for homes located within about a half-mile of turbines, where impacts would be expected to be the largest. That's in the introduction, page 1. And lastly, obviously, the report didn't mention homes that were unable to be sold due to industrial turbine presence. So that's my last point, and my only question for you is, what is the meeting when you'll be voting on this for your changes after you've had a chance to absorb all of these studies?
Oh, that's a good question. We are just now beginning the process of gathering information, and this is going to take a few meetings, probably maybe a trip to visit a wind farm and some officials. We need to bring in probably other ordinances from other areas and do a lot of studying. So there's no specific timeline.
Thank you. That's very helpful. The Frankfort Times.
But I will make one thing clear, just a kind of a point of education here. The way it works, and I said this at the last meeting, but there's new and different people here. This is just the committee. Okay, the committee doesn't take any no official action is done here. Now, we will at some point in time come up with a list of recommendations, okay, as a committee. Okay, that's about as official as it gets, and then it will actually have to be presented back to ourselves as when we have an official area plan commission meeting. And Jay, you chime in if I miss anything here. Okay, there's a specific procedure. Okay, then assuming that we decide to move forward with those recommended changes, then we call and advertise a public hearing. Then at that point, we have another get together like this, where you all get to have your time to come up to the podium, and it'll have to be, something similar to this, where you maybe sign up ahead of time, but you will be able to comment on our exact recommendations, okay, to say yay or nay, whether we've selected the right things that need to be updated, okay? So then, once you have that public hearing, we vote whether or not to move it forward to the commissioners for their approval. They approve it, okay, or disapprove it. Does that pretty well cover it, Jay? Yes. Okay. So as far as anybody worrying about a vote happening at any one of these meetings while you're like on vacation or at a ball game with your kids or whatever, that's very, very, very unlikely to happen. Never say never, but it's like, it's not going to happen,
Thank you so much.
That's maybe more information than you needed, but.
No, it's very helpful. Thank you.
Okay. So moving on. Number 3 is Tony Sommers.
Gentlemen of the Area Plan Commission, the public that is assembled for the meeting, thank you for this opportunity to address you. Microphone's a little low for me. I hope my sound is carrying okay. I wanted to speak specifically on the issue of setbacks. To me, setbacks are really at the heart of the balancing act that has to be performed in an ordinance of this nature, where you're balancing the property rights, various classes of participants, landowners, and residents here in the county. Many counties have gone this way before us. We can certainly gain knowledge from looking at where they have set their setbacks. Our problem today is that the setback provision in our current ordinance is kind of broken, either by word processing or some kind of copying and recopying process as the ordinance has been looked at over the years. I really think it started out with several different provisions, many of which are still in place. We do still have a setback of 1.1 times the height of a turbine from a property line. We do still have a provision regarding sound that limits sound for a residence at 51 decibels. However, with regard to another provision of our setback, we have little flies in here. I don't know if you've noticed people swatting them away, but that's what's going on. There's a provision that I think began with a requirement that a turbine not be placed any closer than 1,000 feet from a dwelling. That language is no longer in the commercial wind turbine setback provisions. It is in the non-commercial setbacks for wind turbines that are in the same ordinance, but not in the commercial portion of the ordinance. I think that that is a key provision that does have to be addressed by the area plan to repair that portion, at least to address a setback provision. There are several different concerns that are addressed by setbacks. Some of them have to do with noise. Some of them, though, have to do with quality of life. Some of them have to do with concerns about potential impact of property values. But one of the key concerns is direct threat to safety and well-being of people who are close to wind turbines. I looked at safety manuals for wind turbines and found that two major manufacturers do have some information regarding a distance to be away from a wind turbine when it's in a state of disrepair or not functioning correctly. So, you know, a stay and remain distance, a distance you shouldn't go closer than unless it's necessary. And with regard to the manufacturer Vestas Nordex, they put a provision in their safety manual of 1,640 feet. It's specific to that particular model or line of wind turbines, but it gives you an idea. They don't state how they arrive at that 1,640 feet, but they state what the concern is, and the concern is debris being thrown by the turbine. They also have a caveat to that to say the distance may need to be greater in the circumstance of a runaway turbine being described as a turbine that has lost its braking ability and is spinning uncontrollably. So we're talking a fairly complete mechanical failure for such a turbine. Looking at the General Electric safety manual for a 1.5 megawatt, which the manual said it was also applicable to 1.6 megawatt turbines, that's actually like a generation ago. But with regard to that particular turbine in the manual, it actually did state a formula because they stated it as being you have to retreat to a distance R away from a turbine. And then the way that they defined the R was to take 1.5 times adding together hub height and rotor diameter. Now, given the size of the turbine models that they were talking about, that was arriving at a distance that was around 1,100 feet.
Tony, the red card's up. Would you like to wrap up then?
I can. Main point being, with regard to setting a setback, it's not just these issues of noise and not just these issues of quality of life, it's direct threat. And I've given you the study of 3 aerospace engineers, first published in the journal Wind Energy in April of 2011, that came about a scientific way of establishing the setback, and it uses an engineering formula called the Monte Carlo method. Applying that to the modern turbines would put you at a distance for a setback of a minimum safe distance to get away from thrown debris of 1,640 feet, the distance that was stated in the Vestas manual. I think that that is a distance that needs to be considered as a minimum safe distance from a dwelling. I think that as you talk about these other concerns, is when you have to start talking about a setback of 2,640 feet, a half mile, as has been adopted now in many counties around the state. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have this in writing, you said, Tony?
I have submitted the study to you, the engineering study, as well as some other documents.
Okay. Thank you for the information. Number 11, Greg Landis.
Well, thank you for hearing us this evening. My name is Greg Landis, 10450 East, 500 South. I just wanted to speak very quickly to setbacks and health concerns. I think there are, as an optometrist, I can say that shadow flicker is real and that it does affect people. And I think setback distance is significant in that we could put a rotor with 5-foot blades at 2,500 feet away, and we'd all, I think, agree that that wouldn't be much of an issue. You can take a rotor with 150-foot blades, and that area of propeller spin would cover over 1.5 acres, and that would be a very significant situation. And I think sound and I think vibration also vary significantly with the size of the turbines. And I do know that across Europe, many of the countries, if not provinces, have adopted ordinances where the distance is directly dependent upon the size of the turbine and the turbine blades. And I think that is significant. A 1,000-foot setback might have worked fine for a 200-foot tall turbine. I think it's a very different story for a turbine that is 600 feet and possibly going even higher as these manufacturers develop bigger machines. The Clinton County Unified Development Ordinance says they have the following purpose: to provide and protect for the public health, safety, and general welfare of the county. It goes on to say, provide for the safety, comfort, and soundness of the built environment and related open spaces. And I asked the gentlemen who are deciding on this to not sacrifice residents who don't have any interest in this for the bigger corporation who would be very much be interested in setting up industrial park across our county. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Landis. Did you submit any written? Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. We would really appreciate that. Amber? 22. Number 22, Dan Larman.
Thank you and good evening. I think this late in the evening, there's been a lot of really good points made, so I see no reason to touch on a lot of those again. I basically just wanted to tell the board here, this committee, that I appreciate all the due diligence that you're putting forward, and we appreciate all the hard work, and we're confident that we're going to get a good decision for the community. And we've had a lot of good input tonight, so I think we can all have a good feeling about this process. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Appreciate the words of encouragement again. Next, 23, Jay Mitchell. Jay, I'm sorry to interrupt, but do you have anything pertinent comments regarding the wind zoning ordinance?
No, just go to Northwestern and look at there.
Okay.
500 feet from the road, about 500 feet from the school building.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 9 is Ralph Walker.
Ralph Walker, Superintendent of Schools at Clinton Central. And it's good to see so many people from the community out this evening for obviously an important event. When it comes to ordinances, as you well know, they're really important. There was one passed here about 20 years ago that limited housing. And as Mrs. Robertson pointed out, we're down to 972 students because there's no housing out there and it's not allowed. And I just hope that whatever you do with this ordinance, that you don't make a mistake. And I don't think you will, but the ordinance is obviously crucial. And the other thing I just want to say, because this is my community, is whatever happens here, do not let this issue split us up. This is the greatest community on the face of the earth.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. All right, thank you. That's important. According to my list, we've had everybody on here. And we still have time. 7:18. So what's the board's pleasure here? Commission's pleasure? Okay. Well, yeah, I think we have to allow the same guidelines. Speak regarding the wind ordinances and procedures, and 4 minutes, as same as everybody else. So you just state your name and address so we know who you are. Rochelle, do you have comments regarding the ordinance? Okay, please stay on point.
According to the ordinance at that time said no wind farming. In 2009 and 2012, if the commissioners passed it, the ordinance was written. Now we're having problems with the ordinance. My problem is Michigan Township has 649 people census as of 2010. That's just Michigan Township. You have 119 people that are signed up. As far as the ordinance is concerned, if we still have no wind farming in Clinton County, we're still looking at the wants of the few going over the wants of the many. I'm tired of seeing this. I want this ordinance to finally
But that doesn't have anything to do with our zoning ordinance.
stick. I want you to do your due diligence, just like the lady talked about the Wi-Fi. You see this? I wear this because I have Parkinson's. If anything happens to me and the ordinance is not written right, so that there's a problem with my telephone and I fall, just like I did 5 weeks ago after I had surgery, I had to push this and I had to find somebody to come to me. Had the ordinance not been written, if the ordinance is not written right and they build these towers and it causes problems with wavelength, we're going to be in trouble. I'm asking you, please, the wants of the many should always outcast the wants of the few. 119 people are pushing this through. We need more than 119 people. And I think the majority that is here tonight agrees with me rather than agrees with the 119 farmers who plan to make a lot of money off of it. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we need to remind everybody that we do not have a proposal on the table. So we are here strictly to review the wind zoning ordinances. These two are dead, Russ. I got the only live mic.
Here, but it's not going to last long.
All right, that's kind of hard for me to see. I see a hand in the back row up there. Okay, well, that's the first one I saw. So if you want to speak, come up and just, you have to talk really loud, or I can give you this microphone and we'll.
Staging, or if you want to go next to the slide.
I mean, I can kind of be flexible here. Go ahead and see if that works.
Hello,
Okay.
my name is Mike Bray, and I live at 4103 South County Road 1100 East, and have lived there for 38 years. I keep hearing this about wind farms. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm against them. I don't want them in my neighborhood. I don't want to look at them. I beautified my land, and I don't want to look at wind farms. But let's talk about the ordinance. I would like to see in the ordinance, we keep talking about how much money it's going to make for us, right? Which is good. I like that. We're going to bring money in, help the kids and the schools and everything. So I would suggest that in the ordinance that we propose some sort of tax on the income that comes into these to the people who have these on the owners, part of the ordinance, so that we can subsidize our schools a little bit better. You know, maybe, I don't know, 50% for 10 years, and then let them have it. And then we could use that money to subsidize our schools, pay our teachers a little bit more, fix our roads. So that's pretty much it. You know, okay, if we want to help the county, let's help the county. Give up half the profit. Give up half the profit, put it in a special fund, go strictly to our schools, our roads, the things that we need to make our county better.
Thank you. I'll just stay here. Help me out, guys. Was this guy next in the back, up against, far back and longer wall? Come on down.
Yep, appreciate it. My name's Stephen Griffey. I live in Michigan Town. Haven't read the ordinance. Not sure what all is in it. I'm against wind farms, just so you know. I'll go ahead and put out my bias, but it's not for a lot of the things that are mentioned. I just have a problem with the economics behind it. But take away the federal subsidies and they go away on their own. But my thought is something that hadn't been mentioned. I don't raise cattle, likely never will. It's an interesting idea, maybe as retirement, but there might be some folks in here that do. And I don't know about other farm animals. And again, I have not read the ordinance, but we keep on talking about how it's going to affect us as people, how we're going to be able to sleep, how it's going to affect our eyes, all that kind of stuff. And I just spent 20 days down in Texas. About 7 of those were on a ranch. And those folks, all they were focused on was death rates of their cattle and how fast they were putting on weight. And I'm just curious, because I know that there's a lot of study on wind farms and how it affects animals. But is there anything in the ordinance that is relative to folks that are raising cattle, or folks that are raising chickens, or folks that are raising any type of food that they're maybe dependent upon, even for food for themselves, maybe if they don't have an income? So I don't know if that's taken into consideration, but maybe it should be. What happens, and I don't want to say the sky is falling, but what happens if all of a sudden, instead of a 5% death rate in cattle, we have a 7%? And that's a social cost that's not going to be accounted for. And social cost is really the thing that's being talked about here in terms of where people live relative to the wind farm. So what's the social cost for the farmers that are raising cattle or raising any other type of animal living in a certain proximity to the, what happens when a cow doesn't sleep so good at night? I don't know the answer to that question. Maybe it doesn't gain as much weight or gain weight as fast, but maybe it should be considered. And that's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you. Who's next? Red shirt? I think I recognize you. But I'll let you introduce yourself.
My name's Paul Wallace, and I live on 700. And I have a question. I've never heard anything in this ordinance about a wildlife study or anything. I took a bat to a botanist today because the conservation officer we found it dead. And that area out there has a lot of brown bats in it. The one I took today was an Indiana brown bat, which is it's not an endangered species, but the botanist said they're going to be right within the next year or two. So has there been any wildlife studies or anything like that? Thank you.
Well, that's a good question, and that is on our radar. Another hand? Well, we had a couple over here who, somebody stand up. Okay. First come, first serve. Please introduce yourself.
My name's Rick Snodgrass. I live at Pickard. And I keep hearing all these things. And how much is it going to raise our property insurance? Our homeowner's insurance is what I'm asking. I've heard it could double it, but I do not know.
That's a good question. Make note of that. We'll look into it. Okay, you bib overalls? You had your hand up earlier.
Thank you. Jerry Hunt, and I live in Jefferson Township, Tipton, Indiana. Appreciate this committee. You got a tough road ahead. Hope you make the right decision. I'd like to state one fact. And I appreciate your service to your country. Representative from Eon, I've met you before. But here's a fact. 20 people per square mile in Benton County. Now you're asking people to go out here and compare Clinton, Tipton, Rush. How can you do that when Tipton has 60 people per square mile? Okay, sorry about that. There's 60 people per square mile in Tipton. How do you compare, my question is, to a county that's got 20, Benton? I've studied wind information for a year and a half in Tipton County. I respect the time to speak. Clinton County is a great place. Thank you, sir.
Okay, you back in the back row over there, young lady.
Hi, my name is Karina Wells. I live at 5280 North County Road 500 East. I am also a respiratory therapist here in Frankfort as well as Indianapolis. I would like to speak upon the issue of sleep and the lack of it and how it affects people in the body. Prolonged lack of sleep affects our capabilities to learn. It has negative effects on our memory, temperament, heart health, stress levels, hormones. It regulates our growth, our puberty, our fertility. It leads to high blood pressure, changes in heart rate, and increase in heart disease, as well as weight gain. Lower immunity to disease, and it also affects your liver. It affects your overall health. This study that I have that I will give to you when we're done speaking talks about the noise levels, the distance from a turbine, how far those noise levels carry. It talks about the infrared noise levels. Those are heard throughout your house, even with your windows closed, even if the house is completely insulated. We need to take these things into consideration when we're thinking about our health and our children even, because this will affect them as well.
Thank you. Would you like me to take the information? I'll give it to Mark. And are there copies for everybody? No. Okay, we'll make that. Okay, who's next? Any hands?
I didn't get called out, so may I have 1 moment for a point of interest?
For
Just 1 moment.
well, what do you want? Do you want to say something regarding the wind zoning ordinance?
Wind zone ordinance, yes. We have We have a committee here that is composed of 7 gentlemen from the Area Plan Commission. We do not have a committee of interested people that want to get together and work on this for the next couple of months. I asked at the very original meeting if anyone was interested, and Mr. Summers said he couldn't get anybody that was interested. I, for one, am very interested to open this up again for a committee of at least 9 people that are interested, pro and con, for wind energy and for this ordinance, and I'll be standing out there afterwards, and if anyone is interested in being a part of this committee, please come see me, because we need a residential committee as well.
Well, I think that was about it, unless someone sticks their hand up real quick here. Does anybody on the commission have any? One. Okay. Fred? I guess I better come back.
I like seconds. Oh, thank you. Some of the discussion brought something to mind that I would have liked to have said before. And I read the ordinance online probably about 2 weeks ago now, but I don't recall if there's anything in there saying where the revenue would go to, where it goes. Someone mentioned, I think a sister-in-law of mine, that maybe there should be energy or electrical credit for the local school district that is in the area where the residents are possibly negatively impacted. So that, you know, nothing against Frankfort School District, but their people aren't going to be surrounded by windmills. Clinton Central should get an energy credit and possibly some other things that are actually guaranteed in the ordinance. And I mean guaranteed. The language of the contracts with the landowners that are into the wind farm are going to have guaranteed revenue and then some additional revenue based upon how many hours a year the mills actually turn. Well, the school district and also the county should have something that's really in black and white on guaranteed revenue. Don't count on anything that's additional in case of. Thank you.
Okay, what's the time? Okay. Anybody else? Well, now we're starting to get repeats. I'm not sure what the board feels about that. I mean, I think we've been really good to open things up. Okay, I'm just, you know, kind of getting a consensus here. We still have, you know, about another 30 minutes.
I understand and I respect everyone's time. I did, while there was kind of a lull there, want to reemphasize our current setback is only 1.1 times the height of a turbine, which, depending on the model installed, I would give a rough estimate of about 470 feet. So I don't want any member of the area plan, any member of the attending audience in any sort of confusion or understanding that our setback is currently 1,000 feet. The language is 1.1 times the height of a turbine.
And, you know, it's no secret. We are aware of that. It was a clerical error. You know, everybody's human. This happens. And we know that that needs to be fixed. Anyone else? I would, okay, Andy. All right. I'm surprised you didn't speak up sooner. Now, when this battery goes dead, we're all out of luck.
I know. Well, actually, I think I can probably speak loud enough that they can hear me.
You're not on the radio.
All right. Here we go. There is one other group that I think the ordinance needs to address and to look at, and that is non-participating landowners. The development, a wind farm development, could interfere with application of chemicals by non-participating landowners. This is something I don't know. This is something for you guys to look into, but there should be compensation or something, some way to help non-participating landowners, particularly in their practice of farming.
Thank you. That's another new thing. I would encourage anyone with something we haven't talked about to get the courage up and come up here regarding the wind ordinance, of course. Okay, I'm sorry. The lights kind of blind me, so you got to get my attention. Come on up. Please introduce yourself to the...
Okay, sure. My name is Bob Fearnow. I'm a resident of Tippany County, and I live in an area where right over my house flies the lifeline into Tipton Hospital all the time. So I'm wondering what kind of facilities are going to want to pick somebody up in the middle of a windmill farm with a helicopter. That's a question that's probably not been asked before, but for someone that's older like I am, that could mean a lot. And because I see those helicopters flying over it all the time, it's a real concern for me. Thank you.
Good point. Good point, Bob. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you so much. I was hesitant to speak because I'm a resident of Howard County, but the western side of Howard County, so I've been very involved in what has happened there. My name's Ann Eames, 8166 West, 200 South, Rocheville. I'm sorry, okay. But what my concern is if this all connects, then we do lose our county oversight of some of this. So do be aware eminent domain is a concern if you start having Tipton, Howard, which we already has been in this discussion, and then Clinton. Because if this grows, and I can just tell you I'm an engineer, and I've looked into the effectiveness of this. It's not good science, and it's not good energy source. So I'm just hoping you all don't just think that it's something that's good for right now, because it's too subsidized. It's just not healthy for our community. Thank you.
Okay, again, please keep your comments regarding the wind zoning ordinance. Well, I'm trying to be fair. This is your meeting. And you can tell that we're paying attention, we're listening. But gentlemen, I'd say going once, going twice. I officially adjourn this meeting. Oh, and I do want, for one thing, I want to say in closing here. I really appreciate everybody coming and being professional and conducting themselves like we all are grown-ups here. I want to thank the library. Please be respectful of this facility. We really appreciate having it and would like to come back in the future. I'd like to thank the board and our staff.